Shalom Akim. I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to elders and apostles of GMS who teach and roll well, and say taste to all the Akim, all four corners of earth, who's pushing his truth and sincerity. Shalom Akim. This says drone athletes from 11 countries to attend a tournament in Russia. You know, these drones, you know, they years ago, when they first started flying these things around, they painted them as as something fun, and exciting, a new trend, that people are gonna gravitate towards and spend their money on, you know. Then they start putting cameras on them, and saying whenever you do your little skateboarding tricks or swimming tricks, you can use this, or you can just use it to tape parts of the city. Then they started becoming a nuisance to the government. They were flying them in different areas. They were flying them up to the planes and stuff of that nature, flying them too high, So, you know, then, they really brought them out to what they were used for, what they really intended to use for, in war, These drones were made for weaponry. It's a form of weaponry, They showed that, I want to say, what was that, Venezuela, when the president was out there speaking, and those drones just swarmed in, dropping missiles. He barely escaped, but he got busted up pretty bad, though, And they already knew where they came from because around that time in that era, the rest of the world hasn't perfected their drone technology like that. So they already knew where it came from. And the only place that's really perfecting the weaponry like that is, America is one of the top places, and America's not too far from South America, and they beefing with each other. So all fingers were pointed towards America. But at the end of the day, they had these things, and they said it was for this and that, and they lied, man. It was all for weaponry, just like the robot dog and the different robots they're coming out with. They're playing upon the people's emotion. They got the robot walking down the streets of California, waving at people and stuff, and they're just dumbing the people down, Well, the same thing with these drones. And then on top of that, I seen a few years ago, I was watching ESPN, and they had this on there. They had the drone competition and stuff, man. So yeah, these devils, and then what's gonna happen is, because we're wise to this devil's plans. What's gonna happen is all he's gonna take is, because he's gonna take the top flyer and try to put him in the military, one of the militaries, man. Look at these countries, drone operators, international titles from Australia, Belarus, Bulgaria, Germany, India, Pakistan, Spain, Russia, South Korea, Turkey, and France. All of these countries are warheads, all of them, from all the heathen groups. But once again, they have the money and the technology for that stuff, man. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travaileth upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. These people, once again, they're gonna hollow out their peace, man. But these are weapons, man. These are weapons made for destruction, man. To put upon the people, and they're gonna use the top flyers and bring them on to the military, bring them on to secret fighting groups, because you still have mercenary groups out here fighting on different battlefields, even though you might go home and watch the baseball game or whatever's on tonight, there's wars going on in other parts of the world, we in America, we have a bunch of dope heads, but in other parts of the world, people are fighting over land, water, resources, real wars going on, 1 Thessalonians 5:4. But ye, brethren, are not in the darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of the darkness. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, we're going to be looking into these things. We're going to be doing our research. We're going to get a good, clear understanding of, who the heathens are and who the enemies are, man. But these drones, like I said, they're playing upon the people, as something, for fun. Everything's for fun right now. you know. But once again, we know how this devil operates, man. This is Psalms 55 and 21. Let me back up. 55 and 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were smoother than oil, yet there was drawn swords, man. So once again, yeah, he coming with this peace. He's coming with everybody just gonna have fun. You know, we're gonna just teach people this new technology, this new toy that's out. You know, and in all actuality, this toy is made for killing. You know, they're gonna use it on the battlefield. They're gonna use it on the people. You know, a few years ago, during the Desert Storm War, they had Vice when Vice was popping. You know, Vice is full of it right now because they show more homosexual stuff than anything. And I ain't watched Vice in years, but this is when the show was hitting. You know, you could have the show on the internet. They showed everything that was going on in the world. If you didn't know what was going on in the world, just turn on the Vice around this time. You know, they would show you the different wars going on in different areas. You know, from that Kakistan to Turkey, all these different countries, man. They had everything. But the point was that they showed how a kid in Arizona that was in the military, you know, and he had a PlayStation controller and he was flying a drone, dropping bombs over in Yemen on people in Yemen, you know, and basically he was saying that he don't know what he didn't know the casualties or anything. He just know that he had a mission to do, and that was his mission. So you know these people, you know, they're gonna come in when it's all fun and games, but in all actuality, we know what it's for, man. You know, and I just found this ironic that, you know, now it's just out in the open and they're just, you know, actively looking for people to fly these things basically now. Drone operators, you know. They do have a jackpot. They say a $60,000 jackpot for the winner. But, you know, once again, you're going to get that contract or that knock on that door, give me that offer that you can't not refuse to join up with one of these countries' military. You know, because once again, this is nothing but training for that World War III that's coming, you know. For the civil unrest that's going to be happening around the world, you know, around the world. This is Proverbs 4 and 16. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall, man. You know? So Esau is forever stirring up trouble, man, stirring up mischievousness, you know? Mischief. He's always stirring up trouble, man. You know, he's always, you know, in the mix. You know, and until he's not going to get any rest until he goes out and acts upon his wickedness, man, you know. So he's out here plotting, you know, like the scriptures say, he knows what he has a short time. So he's getting ready to come down, you know, a great wrath. And, you know, and war is one of his, the guns, the weaponry. You know, this is part of his blessing, man, you know. This is part of the blessing. And I always bring this out, that a lot of the things that we see and he's bringing out on the battlefields right now. We've seen them in video games, man. You know, we've seen them in video games. We first seen drones in video games, man. You know, my Metal Gear video games into a few other video games, man. They've always shown you to the Call of Duties. You know, they showed you drones. They showed you before they were where they're at now, man. You know, in the video games that were used, they were already weaponized. When they came out, in reality, they showed you it was all for fun. It's all for fun and games, you know. Proverbs 4 and 17. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence, man. You know, once again, these so-called, you know, toys were all only made for violence. When I was growing up, you know, you had something called Intertech. There was a water gun called Intertech. And, you know, it looked like the real guns, you know. So when they first came out, you know, you might have all black Intertech guns. And this is around the time where, you know, the devil was coming out with these on purpose. And Jake was getting smoked left and right for pulling out Intertech water guns. Come to find out, when you do your research, Intertech is a real gun company down there in Miami, you know. They made the Tech 9s and they made other type of guns. So what are the most of these guns? They're plastic with a few metal components inside of them. So, you know, Intertech was a shell, all plastic water gun, but it kind of looked like a real water gun. So as years progressed, Intertech they would put wild colors on their guns. So when the police, when you pull it out or playing with it, you know, the police would notice this ain't no real gun. Look at the colors on it, You know, kind of like how they got the guns now with the kid, with the young, with the YNs carrying. You know what I'm saying, with the different wild colors on there. You know, they was doing that to the internet. But yeah, the point was, you know, they made these guns down there, and it was a gun factory too as well. You know, so yeah, this devil eats. Let me read that back again. It's Proverbs 4:17. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence, man. So his whole meal is about violence and wickedness, man. You know, and he ain't gonna get no rest until he goes out and does these things, man. You know, he knew that this gun looked like a real gun and the kids was gonna revolve around it. And then on top of that, when the water shot out of it, it was one of the weakest water blasts you ever shot out, you know? But it had a battery pack to it. You know, you had some that had a battery pack. I had one that looked like an AK-47, and it was a shotgun type, you know? So they had different types though. But, you know, it was still wicked, man. Just, you know, they didn't have to make them look like guns, but they did. They knew what they was doing. This is Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. And right now, the people are upset. They're hungry. You know, they're losing it out here, man. You know, and all they could do is think. All they at least could do is think about war. But that's okay because they're doing our job. You know, and this is how we know that we're coming down to the end, man. You know, more weapons are upon the earth. You know, more weapons are being, they're bringing out more and more dangerous weapons to being used, you know. And this is just one form because, like I say, they're going to weaponize these drones. They're going to have rockets and all sorts of things that go boom, boom on them, you know. But yeah, I just seen this, like I said, and just adding on to the Esau's blessing and just, you know, trying to put sugar on shit. With that being said, I was just edifying. Shalom, Makim.